You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. I'm Jill Waterman, the show's creative producer. I'm also host of our new monthly series, Picturing World Cultures. The dictionary defines culture as the way of life for an entire society. But sometimes larger forces create rifts within the whole, inevitably leading to a confrontation between factions. A prime example of this cultural struggle is playing out today within the cities and villages of Ukraine, the focus of today's episode. My guests for this discussion are Ukrainian documentary photographer Maxim Dondyuk and his wife and artistic manager Irina. After starting out as a photojournalist for Ukrainian media, Maxim has focused on creating his own documentary projects since 2010. He often combines photos, video, text, and archival materials in projects that explore issues relating to history, memory, conflict, and its consequences. In 2019, the release of his book, Culture of Confrontation, became a turning point in his artistic work. As he writes in this book, one culture tried to cling to old times, old ways of living. They were nostalgic for a past that meant a lot to them, to their parents and grandparents. Yet there was another culture that felt completely differently. They looked ahead to forging something new, a different country. Today, we'll examine how these conflicting forces take visual form in Maxim's powerfully arresting images. In 2022, Maxim was awarded the W. Eugene Smith Grant in Humanistic Photography for his project Ukraine 2014 to 2022. Additional recognition includes a Lucy Award as International Photographer of the Year, selection as a finalist for the Prix Pictet Photography Prize, and inclusion in Magnum Photo's 30 Under 30 competition for emerging documentary photographers. We recently spoke with the Dondyuks during a rare visit they made to Germany, where they were working with a publisher on a new book project. Maxim and Irina Dondyuk, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you that you invited us. It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me today. So, Maxim, before we get into your photography and documentary projects, I'm wondering if you can talk a little about what, in your opinion, are some defining characteristics of the Ukrainian people and culture.
Yeah, it's our culture depends on your position in the map, because we all the time be between different empire, like Russian Empire, like Austrian Empire, Turkish Empire, and even Polish Empire. All the time it happens that we should fight for our independence because a bigger country try to invade us. So we are warrior not because we decide to be warrior, because we find way to save our culture, our nation, our language. Sometimes we're looking for some diplomacy. Sometimes we try to be like friends with bigger country, like with Russian. It happens many times. But in the end, you can see we still fight for our nation and independence and our culture.
Right. It's interesting you bring up the word empire. I was reading an article about Ukraine, and it mentioned that in the span between empire and republic, Ukraine would always choose the ideal of the republic.
Yeah, it looks like this because even Cossacks, it's people who just try to escape from empire or another country, and our Cossacks can just change who was in charge. We call it like king of Cossacks immediately if they're just not happy about his politic or something else. So Ukrainian not possible like monarchy or some kind of this. Only democracy like Republica and voted for every decision.
Right. So let's move on to the projects that you've worked on. I want to start with some of your earlier projects. And there was a small series you did in 2013 where you photographed the final workdays of a country doctor in a small village in southwestern Ukraine. He had been treating patients there for 49 years, and his retirement must have had a huge impact on the community. How much time did you spend with this doctor, and what did you observe in his final interactions with patients?
Yeah, this story was really short, like few days compare of Eugene Smith, which I really respect his story about the country doctor. But it was one magazine story and writer already write a text about this, and they sent one photographer, and I don't know what happened, but he have some problem with this doctor, and doctor not allowed him take picture. And when they sent me, I have only 2 days, and I just found way to talk with him, and we spent last few days of his career and check all patient in his village, and he say everyone that after this cannot come back to them, and he don't know who will be after him, and it was a really sad moment for him and for all patient in this village.
Yeah. And did you get a sense of his impressions about any changes to the medical system that he's experienced over the years that affected his work or patient care?
During Soviet Union, it was better situation in the village because it looks like government spent more money and more support for this. But now it's like a small village. Only old people live in this village, and sometimes children arrive to them only for weekend or one times per month. And no hospital. It's like if you don't have money, children cannot just bring you in the hospital in the city. It's only one medical support and this doctor for you, and it's for them it's like if you're sick, if you're lying on the bed all the time, only this doctor can arrive to you and help you.
Right. So it was partially a situation where people had emigrated out of this small village to work in bigger cities, so the population had dwindled.
Yeah, it's mostly happen in all our village, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, it depends. And yeah, we have a lot of mostly abandoned village or few people live in this village, and it's I even don't know sometimes how they can exist. And for these people it's really sad moment. Some old people just crying because they say how I can continue my life here without you. And young people just want to make more money, and they travel to another bigger city where they can find job, because in the village it's nothing.
Right. So, speaking of hospitals, 3 years before this country doctor story you did, you started a huge project documenting Ukraine's TB epidemic, and you spent 2 years from 2010 to 2012 embedded in TB hospitals with patients. How visible were these hospitals and the people in them to the general public in the cities where you were at that time?
For me, it was like unknown story, and I was young documentary photographer, and I tried to find some strong project because I want to just concentrate for long-term project, and I didn't have money, even camera, and just some friends give me, and I cannot travel to another country. So I decided to find some strong story in my country and researching. And when I found real situation about tuberculosis in my country, I was really shocked, and I didn't know about this. And I start take picture, talking with people, and try to understand the whole situation from inside. And it was really big problem because it was pandemic. A lot of people die, a lot of people sick, and unfortunately, government not so okay about this.
Wow. So, how did you keep yourself safe from such an infectious illness when working so closely with patients and actually living in the hospital?
Yeah, in the first time I was really afraid, and just I think maybe after 1 month of covering this situation, I start very stress. And one of my friends just connected me with one doctor, and he just talked with me that I should take care about food, about sleep well, less stress. It's tuberculosis. It's really bad ill, yeah. But if you have less stress, good food, sleep well, you protected. even with mask, it's less protection. And I just stopped using mask after a few months because I realized when I live with the patient, it's like some wall between me and this patient. And of course, it was so risky because if I had tuberculosis, it's even no medicine of this. I think it was like try to do something in my country, try to connect. And after some period, I just stopped care about this, stopped thinking about this, and I realized that I should to continue to do it.
Mm.
But I think it's really important that you just care about yourself because in our country, in post-Soviet Union, mostly everyone has TB, like inside of our body, but only if you have some problems, stress in the work, or you just not care about your food, it could be your immune system will let us down, and it could be a big problem.
So you're saying that there's tuberculosis that's inactive in most people, and then at a certain point,
Yeah, like this in Ukraine, yeah, it's like inactive, yeah.
wow. Did you isolate yourself from the patients?
No, I lived with them in the same room. I drink the same tea, and I just spend sometimes few weeks. I'm not sleeping in the same room because just doctor give me the room, not like for safety reason, just for maybe that I be separately with my equipments. But mostly I spend all the time with patient, just walking with them outside, drinking tea, play card, eating the same food. So I try to be voice of this patient because I just realized that nobody care about this patient in Ukraine, and everybody thinks that all people is drug addicted, prostitution, or homeless people. And I met a lot of just good people have some stress, divorces, or I don't know, just something happened with them, and nobody even want to talk with them. So I try
Mm.
to record not only picture, also their story, and share this. And I try to be voice of this patient for people in Ukraine, for government, for the future, or just for history.
What was the most surprising thing that you learned from immersing yourself in that world?
I think it was beginning of a change myself or my mind because when I come back sometimes for short period in Kiev and when I talk with my friends, they all the time talking about some problem about money, about girls or boy, about politics, about work. But I just spent all the time with people, and some people even know that they will die soon, 1 month or 2 weeks. And they were so happy, smiling, and try to feel every moment in this life. And so after this project, I start less care about material life, about money, and it was connected with not only just taking picture or talking with people. I was part of this, and I tried to make some kind of visual diary what happened with me. And I see not everyone, but most people who share their story and who allowed me take pictures, they know that they will die. And I should to take pictures this really horrible situation because people don't care about people who are like first or second stage of tuberculosis because for them it looks like normal people. And I want to shock these people should care about their health. And I think it was really important that people even afraid and check maybe if they sick or not sick. And so I don't know, try to help them. But in the end, I was burned out and understand I cannot change nothing.
Hmm. Yeah, the idea of putting it out there as a public service project, it seems, was important to you, but that's a tall order.
Yeah, I find few ways, and we put big print in some train station in Kiev and in different city. And near this exhibition, we put like mobile testing car,
Hmm.
and people just see this picture, and some people can check their TB during 15 minutes. Even found many people who was sick, and they didn't know about this.
Wow. So it's a fairly easy diagnosis. It's a fairly easy test.
Yeah, it's an easy test, but people not think about this because people have stereotypes. They think if you have tuberculosis, you are some kind of homeless, drug addicted, or like not normal people. But it could happen with you. Your friends could be tuberculosis. Of course, in your country it's less, but my country it's not so rich, and some people not well eating or not check their health all the time. So it could happen with normal people in some country which not like check all the time their health.
Right. What kind of permissions did you need to get for access to both the hospitals and the individual patients?
Yeah, it was personal project. It wasn't like assignment or some kind of grants, and I don't have any press card in this period. So I just took camera of my friends and start talking through some people who live in the city where this hospital, and they connected me with director, and I just tried to explain that I want to share this horrible situation in our country, and I want to show real situation. I want to talk with people. I want to live in the hospital. And I speak with 10 director of hospital, and 9 say go away.
Mm,
And one say, yeah, just do it because it's horrible situation. And I want to share this. So if you want to do it, you can do it. I allow you live here and take everything what you want if patient allow.
wow. That's great. So I'm curious, were you always driven to do personal work that was not assigned from, when you first picked up a camera?
And this period I was unknown, and we don't have any media in Ukraine which can cover your expenses. So if I want to work, I should find how I can work. And I'm just concentrating for long period project. Even now, it's really hard to find money. But maybe this project for me was like some kind of education because I don't have any photography education. And during 2 years, I live in the hospital not only because I want to live, because I don't have any money for rent apartment or hotel and don't have any camera. And I was so naive. I think, oh, I just maybe spend only 2 or 3 months with this patient and make like some super good story. But only after 3 months, I realized I only just started.
Mm, wow. At the same time that you were working on the TB project, you spent 3 summers documenting a military boot camp for children in the Crimea, where experienced soldiers offered instruction with real weapons and live ammunition. How did you discover this camp and get access to photograph there?
It was accidentally. I work tuberculosis project in Crimea. I live in Sevastopol. And one magazine asked me to spend one day with this camp just for one day. And during this day, I was a little bit shocked about what I saw. And I connected with Cossacks who was charged of this and just come back myself, continue every year to make better connection with them and cover the story. Because for me, it was really important. Few months before revolution in Ukraine, I make 40 hours of documentary movie with my brother, but unfortunately, I still not finish post production of this movie.
Hmm. Well, you mentioned that the camp instructors were Cossacks. Were they a mix of Russian and Ukrainian Cossacks?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, that's a term that has both a military and a cultural meaning. Can you briefly describe the cultural significance of a Cossack?
Yeah, it was so strange for me and why I was interested because it was Cossacks from mostly part of Ukraine and Russia and smaller part from another area. And I don't know why, but I'm all the time talking with them during interview about what will be if war happens between Ukraine and Russia. But all Cossacks say me, oh, we don't have any nation. We are not Ukrainian or Russian. They think that Cossacks it's nation, and they think that politics playing some game and now it's separate few country, and mostly except one officer was so pro-Russian and they educated really pro-Russian people who now fight against of Ukraine, against of Georgia, in the Syria. And why I start making documentary because I realized that picture cannot explain the whole situation because sometimes some pop arrive to them and start talking about the best thing you can do in your life, it's fight and die for Russia and for our culture against America and NATO. So it was not few years, it was few decades pro-Russian people educate children who now fight against Ukraine and want to fight against NATO.
Right, right. The pro-Russian sentiments, did you see them changing over the course of the 3 summers you were there?
Uh, but they not try to speak before revolution and war in Ukraine about this because it was like some kind of taboo. Because I feel like it's some kind of not problem but complicated question because sometimes I listen in some discussion, but mostly all the time the who charge this camp try to stop any conversation about this because children who was from Ukraine, even if their officer was pro-Russian, now fighting for Ukrainian side, and Russian children fighting for Russian side, and one officer have medal from Putin because of annexation of Crimea, and another tried to make some kind of republic in Zaporizhia, but another was pro-Ukrainian. So it was complicated.
Yeah.
It's like two brothers fighting against each other. It's like tragedy in family.
Mm-hmm. And where did the children come from? Were they sent by parents from all over the country or from other countries? Or were they local?
In every country, we have local camps, and the best young Cossacks go to this camp 1 times per year from different countries. So all children and old Cossacks be in then some smaller camp, like in Zaporizhia or Kiev or another area. And for them, it was like awards. But about parents, yeah, it's mostly parents who believe, like in America, the same situation. They think that their boys should know how to use weapons, should to fight, should to be strong, and they want their children be warriors. So
Right.
it's children from 6 years old how they can decide about what they want to do. And of course, if you're 6 years old and some old man and you respect him explain you about how bad America or NATO or how bad gays in European Union and the best idea it's for you to go to the army, of course you believe it.
Right. That's crazy. This camp wasn't unique. There exist a lot of camps like this in different cities or different regions in Ukraine.
Thousands in Russia. In Ukraine was like two different sides, East and West Ukraine, because East Ukraine was more pro-Russian and West Ukraine was more pro-European Union. But unfortunately, even local government Crimea know about this and they support in some way. So everything what happened now, everything what you following now in the news and revolution and big invasion, it's not beginning just after Maidan or something like this. This camp, it's be like history because one country or one culture, it's not like country Russia, it's like culture, pro-Russian culture or Russian Empire or Soviet Union culture, prepare revenge.
Well, in your pictures from the Maidan Revolution and your book, Culture of Confrontation, you describe people as being split between two cultures, one filled with nostalgia for the Soviet Union and the other wanting an independent European country. Can you talk more about this split and how it's evolved through the revolution and then later conflicts?
It was really similar what happened now in America because after collapse of Soviet Union, all Ukrainian was united and everybody was so pro-Ukrainian. But after some period, Russia started spend a lot of money for politics in Ukraine. We didn't talk before like East or West. It was just Ukraine. But after everybody realized that, oh, you're more pro-Russian or pro-Ukrainian, because we have also like you have democracy and Republican, we have pro-Russian and pro-European, and they create a lot of fake news, and people was separated of each other, and family divorces because one was pro-European or pro-Russian. And the same maybe in America. I even don't know if it's possible that husband or wife one democracy and another Republican, because now looks like politics in America do the similar situation. So 20 years, our politics playing in this game with our nation, and Russia spent a lot of money for help politics who try to find more people who will voted for pro-Russian side. And in the end, revolution in 2004, 2014, and annexation of Crimea. But unfortunately, I think it's just political game who creates the whole situation, because before nobody even talk about this.
Mhm. So, making pictures of these conflicts and during the revolution on the front lines is incredibly risky. What, if any, measures can you take to minimize risks?
Minimize risks, it's only one way: not going in the war, not going in tuberculosis hospital or Chernobyl, I don't know. But it's more important in your experience and instincts, I think, but anyway, you cannot control it. So in the beginning, in 2014, I don't know nothing about war photography. I didn't have even vest or helm, and I just cover revolution firstly without any protection. And after I was wounded first time of grenade, I just started using something. And in 2022, I was well equipped because it was much more risky, and I was again wounded. So I think it's not possible. I think it's just like bad and good luck. And I try to feel myself, my instinct. And if I scare, I just believe on this. I try to go another way. But sometimes, unfortunately, I lost mine and go to some danger place because, I don't know, adrenaline or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But I not believe that you can control or be safety. It's like what I can do if missiles arrive, or which protection can help me.
Right. Would you mind talking about when you were wounded? What were the circumstances?
Last time it was in European Bridge in Bucha, and a lot of people just tried to escape from destroying European Bridge. And in this moment, I didn't know why civilians under shelling tried to go through the bridge. Now we know, because in the Bucha was crazy situation, even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Russia used drone, and they controlled their artillery and mortar, and shelling in the square where was only volunteers who tried to evacuate women and children who tried to escape from Bucha. And that was one family was killed. And I traveled with two photographers in this period, James Nachtwin and Jerome Cicini, and the Italian photographer Emanuele Satoli. So it was another incoming in the same place when we just take few picture, and one shrapnel shot my shoulder.
Wow. Thankfully, it was not a worse injury.
For me, yeah, but for another people, yeah.
What about access to documenting the conflicts that you've been photographing? Is there a procedure for this? What kind of channels do you need to go through?
It's a really bad situation now in Ukraine. I can call it military censorship, because in the beginning of war, nobody cared about journalists, and everybody allowed us to do everything. And sometimes we can drive even to Russian position and nobody stop us. But now, unfortunately, I had personally a lot of problem with authority, because I'm working for some kind of long story. I prefer arrive to some position and spend 1 or 2 weeks. But officially in Ukraine, you can do only press tour. You just can go like 10 photographer with writer, with AP, Reuters, or CNN, and do some artillery shelling or motor shelling or some hospital for a few hours, and in the evening come back. I really hate this. I ignore this. I don't want to do this. And we did with Luke Magelson's story for New York here last year, and we live for 2 weeks with infantry, 150 meters near Russia, and one commander allowed us to do it, and a lot of people in high level position was so angry about me, and I just should to go to security service of Ukraine, explain about all situation, to fight for my accreditation. So now I think it's not possible to do really strong story. It's like
Hmm.
only personal connection, only if soldier and they know that they're risky because they will be punishment. Mostly everything what you see, it's press tour, like Israel do the same. It's not possible.
To be independent and
Yeah, embedded.
photographing on the
Yeah,
front. Yeah.
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 But our government really afraid of media. I don't know why, but I think it's stupid decision because it's already nobody talk about Ukraine, and they should find way to connect it with strong magazine and journalists and allow them work deeper. Because of course, if we talk about daily news like New York Times or AP or another media, they need everyday news story. But if we talk about like New York or Time or another magazine, they want to send a photographer and writer for a few weeks, and officially it's like no way.
Right. Well, yeah, it seems like more and more the media access to these kind of conflicts is problematized and controlled. What about living arrangements when you're on the front lines or pursuing conflict work? Do you stay or travel with other journalists? What are the living arrangements like?
Yeah, it's depends because in the beginning of war, maybe first half year, it was so interesting for international audience everything what happened, and it was much more easy find assignment and traveling, and it was a lot of photographer from another country, and mostly first half year I travel with another photographer. We have like some team, and it was a lot of action every day, something new, and so I work mostly like daily news, and I try to cover everything. But it was like just few months, 4 maybe 5 months, and after I concentrate more for deeper story. And last year I also didn't have any assignments, and I should to find my personal way to continue this because international media not so interested about this. So it depends because I prefer work alone. And last winter I worked completely alone, only me, car, and where I covered the situation. But in the beginning it was so risky because you need
Right.
someone. It was like too risky. And for me, it was easy if somebody with me, and for foreigner photographer, someone who know Ukrainian. So we just try to make some teams and travel together.
And from what I understand, your photo gear is very minimal, just a Nikon D810 and an old fixed 35 millimeter lens. But you also travel with a laptop. What's your workflow like for downloading, reviewing, and delivering pictures?
Now situation a little bit changed because more than 1 year I start using middle format Fujifilm GFX 100S.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really love it. It's really slow photography because I less and less do reportage. For me, it's not so interesting, and I concentrate more for different angle of picture, like white story. And again, 35 millimeters. I have another lens all the time, like 50 millimeters, but if be honest, I never use it. I just took it if I broken, or sometimes I think maybe for portrait, but I never have time change lenses. And I think I see this angle of 35 millimeters, and I use it many years. And laptop I did before only not because I should to send something, because I never worked for daily news. I worked in the beginning of my career in Ukraine, but when I start working like with international media, I never work. And for me, if somebody asks me send some picture today, I even not sure if I can take one picture today because I need like week. I'm just so slow photographer, and I need good light, I need good situation, and I cannot make news. I just concentrate more for visual, for aesthetic philosophy thing. And I took before laptop only for sending a picture from camera when my memory card finished. But now I have enough SD card, so I just mostly travel 2 weeks and after come back someplace, or when I live near frontline or at home, and next few weeks I just selected it.
Mm-hmm. So when did you start working with the Fuji? That must have really changed your way of working and your vision, I would think.
Yeah, it was like in 2022 in October or November. I worked for Geo. It's like Germany magazine for Cargo 200. It was like Ukrainian soldier who collected dead body of Ukrainian soldier. And I take this camera for testing because I also time thinking about middle format. And one of my friends recommended me try to it, and I really love it, if be honest. And I even stop make any post production of picture after this. And I love that it's really slow because for me I needed it because I make a lot of action. I need something technically just say me, man, if it's action, stop looking for another way, looking for another angle. It's not for you. It's helped me with another kind of photography.
So you've been photographing the conflict all along and working alongside soldiers. You've been covering the conflict with your camera while they have guns. Was there ever any concern that you would be drafted as a soldier, that you would need to take up a gun rather than a camera?
It's a really risky situation, and I'm not protected of this. And few journalists it's already was mobilized. Unfortunately, actually, our government sometimes try to punish some journalists about this. They're just not happy about their work. And it's not like risky. It will happen with me. It depends of time.
Wow. Yikes. Well, I hope time continues to be on your side with that. I think this is a good time to take a short break. When we return, we'll hear more from Maxim, as well as from his wife and artistic manager, Irina Dondiuk. Stay tuned. I hope you're enjoying this chat with Maxim and Irina Dondiuk for my monthly series, Picturing World Cultures. Before we go back to the show, I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners, Sims in Texas, whose Apple Podcast review highly recommends my series for the practical knowledge it contains. Thanks so much for your enthusiastic support, Sims. We're psyched to know that you find our photographer interviews even more valuable than gear reviews. We'd love to hear other listeners' thoughts on this episode and our show in general, so please leave a rating and post a review on Apple Podcasts. And stay tuned for my next installment of Picturing World Cultures coming up in June. Okay, we are back, and we've been speaking with Ukrainian photographer Maxim Dondiuk. Let's shift gears and hear from his wife Irina, who's also his artistic manager. So Irina, Maxim describes his workflow for downloading and delivering pictures from the field. How does that process work from your end? What kind of a setup are you working with at home?
From the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, we continue working very closely together, but of course, the whole process looks quite different from how it was previously. While Maxim is on the shooting, on the front line, he always tries to send everything he does during the day through iCloud, so I could have all the photos and I could have all the material to send it to magazines, to curators, to grants, etc. So my responsibility actually is to link him with all these institutions and with media, and to promote and to share his photos. So I receive photo material from him, and then we start, sometimes I myself, sometimes with him, make photo selection, and already with this selection, work with media, with exhibitions, awards, grants, etc.
Yeah, but I'm all the time send selection, but it's really needed shorter selection, and Irina just sometimes I don't have even time and connection. Selected picture for curator, exhibition, and editors.
Right. So, how often are you able to get in touch when you're out in the field?
It's very depends on where is Maxim and if he has any connection at all, or if when he's embedded with some military unit, for example, then I never call him first or write him first. I always waiting for his call, because you never know whether he has an option to answer, or whether he has time for me or for some professional questions, for example. So we try to connect every day, yes, through iMessage, or if this is something which we don't want to be discussed openly, then we discuss it in Signal.
I'm not familiar with Signal. Is it like WhatsApp?
And a lot of military in Ukraine and Russia use it because it's really hard to hack it, yeah, compare of WhatsApp or just Facebook or Instagram.
So, is there any risk of communications being intercepted and giving away Maxim's position or other critical information?
Yes, there are such risks if he is located very close to the front line, for example, or with some special military forces. But if there are such situations, I know about them. And as I said, I won't contact him. Only when he has such option, if he has time, and if he finds a way where it is secure to call and talk with me. But again, if it is risky, we won't discuss any serious questions over the phone.
But mostly in front line, I should to switch off mobile phone and without any connection, because Russia have drones and they just can see like some signal from mobile phone. So it's not allowed. If some soldier sees that my mobile phone not airplane mode, they can kill me. It's risky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Irina, with dealing with editors and curators, what's your process? Do you get image requests from media outlets, or are you contacting them about new images that you receive?
Yes, very often, during this war especially, media contacted us directly, because most of the media knows my contacts, and they write me directly because they know that I'm the one who is responsible for communication, and Maxim is very often at such places where he's not reachable. So during the war, mostly they contact me. But when Maxim works not on assignments, but on his long-term projects, then yes, we prepare a set of photos and I contact media and propose them a story. And if they're interested, then we continue our communication already.
Have you found that there's much difference in the type of content used based on a country that an outlet is based in?
No, I wouldn't say that during the war I noticed different interests in different countries. Most of them want to show war, and that's what they do. But before the war, I remember that, for example, French magazines or French curators, they were very interested in Chernobyl, for example, and they published it. Yeah, but at the very moment, a lot of curators are very interested in Maxim's personal long-term stories, which he is doing during the war at the front line, which are more visual, aesthetic, not about photojournalism, but more visual, like Between Life and Death.
Yeah, that project is beautiful. So let's talk about social media for a minute. I know Maxim isn't a fan of social media, but you, Irina, have convinced him that it's important for his career, and you manage his social media posts. What kind of arrangements or rules do you have about posting pictures to make sure Maxim's comfortable with what's being posted and to also keep him safe in terms of the images?
We actually still have, from time to time, this discussion about whether we still need to have social nets or not, because Maxim sometimes he is okay about them, and sometimes he is very angry, and he doesn't want to appear at them at all. But we came to the agreement that he sent me his general selection of photos which he don't mind to share with curators, with magazines, with other people, and I select from them those which I would like to share. And in some moments, I can talk with him and discuss whether he is okay about this or that post. But mostly I do it myself, and Maxim is okay.
And I, if be honest, sometimes even don't know what she publish in social media because I don't want to open it.
So, Maxime, I understand that part of your dislike of social media is because at one point a social media post you made ended up getting you arrested. Can you give us more details about that?
It's only one part, but yeah, it's happened in 2014. I was just from pro-Russian side 3 months with fake documents of like Moscow reporter connected with Cossacks who try to arrive to Ukraine in Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, and I be really connected with them. And I start using Instagram and Facebook, not like criticize because I be like a bandit of enemy and like take picture like our government say, oh, it's like fake, and I just take picture and make some post on Instagram, and people just can see real situation in the picture and do it a lot. And after Ukrainian media start using my picture because they don't have another picture from Russian side, or I don't know why, and start using my name, like our special correspondent Maxim Denduk in from Russian side. And for me, it was risky because these people was so upset. Yeah, and I was like arrested, and they even just like shot to me, but it was like fake bullet with some back on my head. So it was really
Goodness.
complicated, and it was, yeah. And after I hated not only social media, also Ukrainian media, which don't care, because I called some editor and say, what are you doing? And they say, not publish your picture if you don't want somebody share it. But if be honest, it's main reason why I'm not using social media, because I think it's digital drag. I think people waste their life. I prefer read books. I prefer be with my wife. I prefer following on sunset, on sunrise, not checking stupid news. And I just don't want to spend 5 hours per day for something which not important for me.
Right, understood. It definitely is a big time suck. So let's talk more specifically about your photographs. And in the text for your book, Culture of Confrontation, you describe trying to break away from the specific context of the place to capture a more abstract universal conflict playing out between light and shadow, and in some sense, between good and evil. Does thinking conceptually like that make it any easier for you to photograph tough scenes?
It's happens not because I try to find some easy way to take picture of this moment. I think it's happened because for me it was first experience in my life when I take picture. I was alone in Crimea siege or tuberculosis project. No competition with another photographer. And during Maidan, I realized that it's not needed me just capturing protester or something like this, because it's 200 famous photographer as they can do everything. And I start realize that I don't care about news, about how it's happened. And in one moment, I realized that this scene for me like some picture like painting in museum about revolution in previous age, and it doesn't matter what happened, where happened, it's all the time the same situation, two different religion just fighting, but even religion is like two different culture just fighting with each other. And I start to realize that if I go back and see this landscape, because I'm more inspired painting than photography, and see this huge stand where you can see 100 policemen and 100 protester. And when you go to the museum, you not decide which side good or bad. For you, it doesn't matter if it's revolution in somewhere. You just see confrontation. And I start looking for this. It's like something changed inside of me, and I start looking for more panoramic picture, and I try to go back from all photojournalists and photographer, because I don't know how I can take picture if like 10 photographer with 16 millimeters and I stand with 35 millimeters without any zoom lens, and it's just not possible for me to take any picture without photographer. So I just looking for another perspective. And I also think I'm embarrassed photographer. I cannot take picture when it's too many photojournalists. I'm all the time try to find another way, because for me it's much more important not what happened or where happened. For me, much more important what you feel when you see my picture.
Right. Some of your pictures from Culture of Confrontation were made from very high angles. I'm assuming you weren't using a drone, but where were you shooting from for these vantage points?
Yeah, to be honest, I never think about this and never noticed this. But yeah, I think I just looking for some place. I don't know, just when Lenin monument was destroyed, I climbed up and take some picture, or I looking for some bridge, or looking for some burned bus and go to the roof. So I just try to make some panorama and looking for some angle or way, but it's not like was my concept and I tried to do it. It was like accidentally what you notice.
So it's basically sort of more instinct than anything else.
Yeah, because for me it was much more important to show confrontation is big scale landscape with human. Because when you see some face of some protester or policeman, you realize it's not your friends or family members. When you see all confrontation, you can imagine that it's somebody could be inside. It's much more deep. It's like romantic painting when you can imagine that it's you. So I think I'm just trying to find angles, put all my emotion, all my feeling inside of picture, because for me it's not so important when, what, why. What important for photojournalists, for me it's much more important feel it, see it. And I believe that all picture contain some kind of my emotion, and I hope people in exhibition can feel just maybe small part, but can feel something and maybe even cannot understand why.
Well, you have a really powerful way of humanizing inanimate objects and making them almost a stand-in for the person that's no longer there in a lot of your war pictures. It's very powerful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So let's move on to a different subject. After documenting the revolution and the conflict in 2014, you decided to visit the area around Chernobyl, where you retrieved tons of abandoned images and vestiges from a time before the nuclear meltdown. And everything you collected needed extensive cleaning and care before you were able to scan it for use in the archival project that you've done. Were there any concerns about radiation when working so closely with these objects and in that environment for so long?
Looks like I'm working only near radiation, tuberculosis, war, and maybe I never thought about this. Maybe it's some, I don't know, psychological problems that I'm looking something not so happy. But if be honest, it's a lot of also stereotype about radiation, and I have some device for check radiation.
A Geiger counter.
Yeah, but if we talk about Chernobyl, it's like three different zones: 5 kilometer zone, 10 kilometer zone, and 30 kilometer zone. And 30 kilometer zone now it's completely clear, if be honest. And
Mm.
10 kilometers, it's near Pripyat and Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and it's like a lot of radiation. But compare what? Because radiation, it's compare how many radiation just during year. So if I just spend some period in Chernobyl, it sometimes could be equal than you travel to China or America just few times per year. So it's a big discussion about this, but of course it's risky. And of course I check all my artifacts. If be honest, I just go to Chernobyl after 2015, and I was like from just like some psychological problem, I think, after war, PTSD, and I want to be
Mm-hmm.
alone. I want to be like some kind of meditation. And I start spend a lot of time in Chernobyl just taking picture. I never even thought about collected some negatives or photography. And I still thinking that it Chernobyl not like choose me, but open me, because when I spend alone in Chernobyl, I feel myself much more better, take some picture, and after I go inside and see this atmosphere, I can see the teacher live in this house because some stuff, and I start find some pictures and postcards. And firstly, I didn't take it because I think, oh no, it's a bad idea. But after I come back at home and think few weeks, I think if nobody collected, I don't know, just people not care about this. But for me, it's so important. You can see, you can research the big area, and everybody know about Chernobyl disaster. But for me, this project about how it was before tragedy, and I just try to follow in the past. Now I collected like approximately
Yeah.
500 negatives and more than 2,000 paper artifacts and photos. So for me, it's like some kind of archive and museums.
I'm curious, Maxim, what's the legal status of the materials you took from Chernobyl? Is it legal to go into those houses and take stuff?
Yeah, I do it firstly completely illegally. And I just collected it, and it was like I should to find some place in my car and just escape. Not because I'd be arrested. I'm not afraid about this because our government, I don't know why, think it's garbage, but I think it's pressure. I think it's really important thing. I want to make some online archive where family like children or grandchildren can find through last name or picture archive for their family, because people just temporarily evacuate from Chernobyl area for 3 days and never ever come back. And some grandchildren never know how look their grandpa or grandma. And I think it's so important. And I don't know why government not think about this. And one times I decide don't care about if it's legal or illegal. I just start collected it and did it like 6 years.
If you don't mind, I will add that officially it is not permitted to take anything from Chernobyl, but unofficially, everyone with whom we spoke, what we are going to do, they knew what we will do. Authorities of Chernobyl knew this
After a few years, yes. Yeah.
after a few years, but they helped us with permission to live in Chernobyl last time for 3 months, but they couldn't give us official permission because it's not legal. But at the very time from Chernobyl, you can see that wood is cut and taken from Chernobyl. All this metal is taken from Chernobyl. So it's also illegal, but people continue doing it because it's money.
Yeah. First, I did it like first few years illegally. I just should to pay like a photographer a few hundreds bucks for tour guide. and I just take picture and I will have some system how collect it. And after one authority helped me with permission, and people in Chernobyl know what I did, but they have three border, like 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and 30 kilometers, which security service of Ukraine control, and nobody give me permission. So they check my all bags, my all car, and authority in Chernobyl say me, if they found it, we don't know about this, it's your problem.
So you actually need an official tour guide to visit the region?
Firstly, yeah, I did it like a photographer, but after one authority guy just helped me with permission, and I live with Irina 3 months in Chernobyl zone before war, because my idea checked every house, and I have like geo position every house, and I already checked 22 villages, every house in these villages.
Wow. Well, it's a wonderful project. And you have a very personal connection to the Chernobyl disaster in that your younger brother, who was born a year after the accident, was seriously ill for the first several years of his life. Was illness a common phenomenon among young children born around the time of the accident?
If believe what people talk and statistic, yeah, it was a lot of problem with children who was just born after accident of Chernobyl, like my brother. I don't know another example except of my brother, but yeah, it was too many like mutation or some problem and cancer. Yeah, so it's because Soviet Union keep a secret in first few weeks, and it
Right.
was first May was some demonstration in Kiev. So, and all my childhood, I listening from my parents that it happens because of this with my brother, and my brother just spent 7 years in the hospital. I mostly didn't see him.
Wow.
So yeah, maybe for me it was like some mystic situation. But I first time arrived to Chernobyl in 2007, but I start feel this area only after war, only after some kind of traumatized in the war. And for me, it's like from Tarkovsky movie about Stalker. I don't know, I really love this place because it's a really good example for human that nature not needed us. And when you go to this area and see building, how nature ruins this and animal live without this, you just understand that we are part of nature. We're just not like only using nature. We should to find some way like collaboration, because nature can continue live with us. Some pandemic or nuclear disaster can happen, and for nature it's nothing. It's just matter for us.
Right. So I want to mention that your brother is now a filmmaker. And so he's doing okay today. He's gotten through his illness.
Yeah, he's okay after 18. Looks like everything okay, and he have a lot of scars of his body because of operation, but he just feel really good, and he's work like filmmaker, but cameraman.
You collaborate on projects.
Yeah, we just do together, collaborated with Crimea Siege and try to finalization it. And he also make a documentary about Chernobyl project with me. And now he's in Brussels in some kind of small festival with his one movie about firemen from south of Ukraine. So yeah, we just try to support each other.
That's great. Did you come from an artistic family?
No, at all, not at all. Because my father was like officer of policeman, but he was like, I don't know how to say, he just was not like policeman. He was integrated of some kind of mafia. Just so it's I never saw him in my childhood. And my mother was like just just normal work. So, but there was a matter of photography, my mother and father, and I have collection of negatives from their childhood, teenager era, and after they was married and together continue. So I don't know, maybe it's because of this, but it's not artistic at all, and I don't have any education, and I just shoot to all my life continue learning myself
Yeah.
everything about art, about philosophy, about everything what I just interested in.
Well, the most important thing is when it comes from the inside. So there's one other series I want to bring up that you mentioned briefly earlier. In winter 2017, you returned to an area in eastern Ukraine where you had documented heavy conflict in 2014. And this time you photographed the ruins under a blanket of snow for a series called Between Life and Death. Is this area still part of Ukraine or is it now under Russian control?
Yeah, for me it was really important series because to be honest, during this series I promised myself never come back to the war. I had like big mental problem, and I come back and try to capture the place which I saw during 2014. And now I saw that this place abandoned, and I just decide take a picture with snow. I try to make like some kind of parallel between veterans who come back to normal life and this place, because I feel the same what people feel when they come back from war. Nobody can understand them. It's like emptiness. And mostly all picture which you can see in this project now, it's from pro-Russian side. But in this winter time, I spent 3 months only just continue this story in Donbass area, in South area, and soon maybe I just publish its middle format, its drawn picture, and also panorama, because I collaborate in previous for one museum with Edward Burtinsky, and we just make like big panorama from middle format, like 10 picture combined together. So
Wow.
it's like continue these stories, but I think it's much more deeper from middle format, from drones, from panorama, but also about this visual language, white picture with tanks, with ruin. And I just spent 3 months living, and I cancel all my assignment, just only wanna concentrate on this. And now I'm just after some rest start to select it. Yeah.
Mm. So you mentioned Ed Bertinsky. Was he in Ukraine working with you?
In the beginning of war, I don't know how he found me. He decided to support me, and I really respect because I really know his work, and I never think that he just write to us and propose me some kind of support. Like 6 months, he sent me $2,000 for supporting Continue, and he also helped me because we just talk a lot of with him. And one museum in Toronto proposed him make some kind of panorama 10 meters in long side and 3 meters in short side in Babi Yar. It's where it was killed a lot of Jews in Kiev, and he cannot arrive in Kiev, and I just did this picture like collaboration. But for me it's like mentor for me. He helped me, he called to me, we talk a lot of with him after his support. And yeah, now I just start using this kind of panorama which we do because he asked me do it for one museum. It's quite interesting how it's changed
Yeah.
this project. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know he's a big philanthropist, and I never thought about a visual connection between your work and his, but now that you mention it, I can see that the sort of large, iconic nature of the work. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, it's really just inspire me. And I don't know if you know, but his parents from Ukraine, and I was
Ah,
surprised that after a few months he started talking with me by Ukrainian language.
really? Oh,
Yep,
wow.
yep, he know Ukrainian language, but he never was in Ukraine. He dreamed just come back after war and just see his grandpa and grandma town or village in the West Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. So, in terms of the wider world, in July 2022, you went to France, where your work was exhibited at the Photo Festival in Arles. And to make that trip, you needed special authorization from the Ukrainian government. And when we were speaking just before, when starting this call, you mentioned that you're now in Germany. Do you have other plans for traveling outside of Ukraine in the future?
Unfortunately, no, because it's first time when I just now go abroad of Ukraine, and you need a lot of documents, a lot of papers if you wanna go. I don't know who decide, but all the year nobody in Minister of Culture just not allowed me travel. And this time when I go to the preparation printing my new photo books about war, they allowed me to do. But yeah, a lot of my friends cannot travel, and could possibly if I come back I cannot travel again. So it's
It's
first time
difficult.
after Arl, and I don't know if it's possible travel anymore after.
Yeah. So, do you plan to return to the war and continue your documentation?
Like I say, I'm really just like burn out about this, because after 10 years of documenting this and some problems with authority in Ukraine, security service in Ukraine, like cancel my accreditation. I feel myself like I'm not needed in my country. Maybe for people, maybe for history, but looks like government or some kind of authority just disrespect what I do because they needed only propaganda. So, if be honest, now it's not possible to do something except of press tour, and I need some break and I need to see what I did, finalization my book, finalization what I did this winter, because I worked nonstop 3 months in winter time. And now I want to just spend some time for selection. So, if be honest, now I'm just not planning to come back to frontline. And if be honest, somebody talk with me and they say they're not allowed me do it.
Wow. Wow. Well, you certainly got a lot of work that you've made that's still in process that will keep you busy, and more than keep you busy, probably result in more powerful storytelling and work.
I also think that now it's important after 2 years nonstop working, just concentrate, because even Chernobyl, I spent 3 months in Chernobyl and I prepare everything like cleaning, washing, and putting the press for scanning. And I didn't have time check what I found in Chernobyl zone because it's war. It's immediately I should go. It was beginning of war, and after 2 years nonstop working, now I just do books and wanna just select and prepare my like continual wide story. And also I have some kind of new material which I wanna present in the future. So I think even if I now to come back now in front line, I need like 1 or 2 years just try to show this to the world.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more of your work. So, Maxim and Irina Dondiak, thank you so much for your time and speaking with us and the insights you've shared about your projects in Ukraine. But before we go, I'd like to end with a short visual questionnaire inspired by the TV show Inside the Actor's Studio. It's a brief list of questions with one-sentence answers. So, Maxim Dondiuk, with all things being equal, is your preference color or black and white?
Color.
Great. Which image orientation do you gravitate to more often, horizontal or vertical or square?
I prefer horizontal, maybe because of painting more horizontal.
Yeah. And what's your lens preference, prime or zoom?
Prime 35 millimeters.
Mm.
I love it.
What one photographer, living or dead, has influenced your work the most?
Yeah, if decide about one, it could be Nadav Kender, I think. But I really love Düsseldorf School and Edward Burtynsky. It's some kind of this way of photography.
Interesting. Outside of photography, what profession or craft would you most like to explore?
Except of photography, I think I just learn philosophy. I want to read more book about philosophy. I don't know. I'm really curious about this. I read a lot of books about this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense given your work. In a single word, what is your biggest motivation for making pictures?
Feel life in different perspective.
That's a great way of summing it up. So you mentioned that you're currently on production with a new book. What other upcoming projects or plans can you tell us about? And when will the book come out?
I hope this book will be this year because we're planning in this spring, but now it's postponed a little bit. But I also want to concentrate for Chernobyl and find way how I can just exhibit it in and maybe in the future. So more concentrate for this. But Chernobyl is huge. It's too many different levels. It's even not like one stories. And White Story, it's not like will be continue of my between life and death because it's different moods, it's different feeling, it's even different aesthetic view. It's only similar that it's like some kind of destruction in war and white, but I think it's some kind of evolution of photography. And I have also one project like are negatives from Soviet Union area, and it's like I should to scan it, so it's like something kind of interesting things. So it's like between of my photography and between some high photography, and for me it's really cool because when I just spend 2 years only take picture, after I can concentrate not just for selected only this picture and also do some project just in studio, sitting, drinking tea, reading book without any risky life. I can concentrate and still can working of some kind of new project. But if be honest, it's like everything like dream because I am Ukrainian photographer and maybe now people know about me, but in the future they can forget about me. It's really hard sometimes to find some kind of exhibition or gallery or museum or something like this. So I just try to do it by myself and hope.
Right. Help for more velocity going forward. Well, you certainly have an in-depth body of work. And speaking of which, where can guests find out more about your work? Your website, which I am just a huge fan of, is almost endless.
Thank you. I just really think only about website because Irina do all social media and I just only work on my website. So my social media, sometimes Irina just asks me what I'm doing in website. I say I change color.
So you handle the website and she handles the social media.
Not only social media, all communication, because I'm just even not talking with people in Messenger. Mostly I'm talk only with really close friends, but mostly I'm talking with people like video chat or audio chat or like normal life. So she should pick with all good people and bad people who just write to me.
And as for the social media, what are the social media accounts?
This Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Mostly I think is Instagram and Facebook. Facebook now less, I think, famous, but Instagram Irina try to share all things what happened or what she wanna share, except of my private life. It's my life, only for me, not for
Right.
followers.
All exhibitions, all publications, everything can be found there.
Yeah. And that will all be contained in our show notes. So Maxim and Irina Dondiuk, thank you so much for joining us today and for introducing us to your work. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you also for having us.
Yes, thank you for inviting us. It was a pleasure to talk with you and with your audience.
And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, would love to hear about it. Pull up this episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a comment. While you're there, make sure the subscribe button is clicked for automatic updates about every episode release. You can also find us and drop us a line on the Explora blog, where we post photos from our guests along with the show notes. And if you're a fan of social media, please join us on Facebook at the B&H Photography Podcast Group, where you can share your favorite photos and comment about the show. I'm Jill Waterman, the podcast creative producer and host of this series. Episodes are recorded, mixed, and edited by technical producer Mike Weinstein. Theme music for this series is composed by Gabriel Richards. Our executive producer is Bjorn Peterson, and our editorial director is Sean Steiner. On behalf of us all, Thank you so much for tuning in today.